Marq Evans is an award-winning independent filmmaker and creative entrepreneur. The Diamond King is his most recent documentary. It premiered at the 36th Annual Palm Springs International Film Festival in January 2025, where it won Best of Fest, and has since received much praise from the baseball community. His previous film, Clay Dream, premiered at the 2021 Tribeca Film Festival to critical acclaim and had an extensive theatrical run in the summer of 2022. It was named one of the top 10 documentaries of 2022 by the AV Club. His debut feature film, The Glamour and the Squalor, won top prize at film festivals around the world and was named one of the top 20 music documentaries of all time by American Songwriter. Marq is currently working on an untitled Bigfoot documentary. In addition to film, Marq has produced commercials for clients, including the Smithsonian Institute, U.S. Navy, the Government of Haiti, and the Clinton Global Initiative. Peggy Steele has given many gifts to the baseball world. She, along with her late husband Frank and Dick Perez, is a co-founder of Perez Steele Galleries, serving as its president from 1979 to 2005. The Frank and Peggy Steele sheet music collection, which doubled the size of the Hall's sheet music archives when it was donated, documents popular baseball songs written between 1885 and 1992. The collection includes a wide variety of music written about baseball, as well as songs with an indirect link to the game, such as Culture Club's Karma Chameleon, featuring the band wearing baseball uniforms on the front cover. In 2001, Peggy established the Steele Internship Program for Youth Leadership Development at the National Baseball Hall of Fame, one of our country's most respected endowed internships. Program alumni include Stephanie Hazard, the National Baseball Hall of Fame's current Director of Education, Hall of Fame Library Director Cassidy Lent, and Elizabeth Muratore, a senior content producer for Major League Baseball and co-director of the Internet Baseball Writers Association of America. Peggy served for 9 years on the Board of Trustees of the Pennsylvania School for the Deaf, the last 6 of those years as chair. Marq and Peggy, welcome, and thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Peggy, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. All good. All good.
I was checking other things. I missed that.
So it's a beautiful day here in North Jersey, and we're so thrilled to have you both here with us. I've got a couple of questions lined up, and then we'll hop over and take some from the gallery. So to start off, both of you played an important role in teaching baseball history through the artwork of Dick Perez. What is it about Dick and his work that made him the artist with whom you wanted to partner?
Peggy, you want to start?
Okay, fine, I will. Well, we were friends with, Frank and I were friends with Dick Perez. We knew him as a person, and we loved him as a person. And his talent was amazing, and we just wanted to do something with him. We were together for a while, just as friends, looking for an opportunity, and we're happy when we did find a great opportunity. Dick's character was the main issue. We loved him and appreciated who he was as a person, and his appreciation of art in baseball. I used to spend a lot of time with him researching for the photos that he would use, and I loved his take on what appealed to him, because he didn't want the standard pictures. He didn't want the portraits, so to speak. He was looking for developing the character of the person, and I just appreciated who he was, and how he saw his world through art.
Yeah, and for me, I didn't know Dick personally when I had this idea for this film. Don't even know how well I necessarily knew the name, but what I knew was the Diamond Kings. I mean, those were the cards I loved collecting more than any others when I was a kid. And back in, let's see, this would have been like June of 2022, my son and I were looking through my cards, and there's kind of a scene in the movie that alludes to this a little bit. And we came across the Diamond Kings, and I was just transported back to being a kid collecting, and just this feeling of nostalgia, overwhelmed me. And the question that I had then was, well, what's the story of the artist, Dick Perez? And, I thought that I would just, kind of find that answer out and that would be it. But I ended up on Dick's website, dickperez.com, which is a great website that you can get lost on for hours, if not days. It's got all of his artwork on there. And that's when I realized that Dick did a lot more than just the Diamond Kings, that he had the whole Perez Steele gallery collection, that he, was the official artist of the National Baseball Hall of Fame for 20 years, and had what I thought was maybe an interesting personal story to explore as well. So I got kind of excited that day. I thought, once I realized that Dick had painted thousands of baseball paintings, the whole history of baseball, that we could maybe tell his story and a history of baseball through his work, which I think if you look at the film and if you look at Dick's work, you do see a full history of the game from the 1800s until, still today. And so that's what was exciting for me. I reached out to him via email, I think that day, and we connected on the phone within a week, and we kind of hit it off on the phone. And it was really casual though. I was going to be in New York. I live in Washington State. Dick's in Brooklyn. I was going to be in New York in a couple weeks, so I said, why don't I just stick around a couple extra days, bring the camera, we'll shoot some stuff, and if we feel like it's fun and we're enjoying it, then we'll keep going. And if not, no pressure. And that's how it all started. And then got to know him and his family as kind of a second family, and like Peggy said, of just loving the man first, and then turns out he's super talented. That's kind of what it was for me too. Just like fell in love with him really quickly, and then couldn't wait to be able to share his story.
I'm sure that I'm speaking on behalf of everybody here when I say that I'm so happy that both of your paths crossed with Dick's, because I can't imagine enjoying baseball without his contributions to it. And by an extension of that, the further contributions that both of you have given to the baseball world. So thank you.
Thanks.
Marq, your film is much more than a baseball film. It touches on themes of immigration, high regards for one's mother, a successful long-term marriage relationship, and reaching the pinnacle of success in one chosen profession. And all of those are common threads in the life of Dick Perez, as well as the life of Yogi Berra. And here we are sitting in Yogi's Legacy Museum and Learning Center. Why was it important to you and Dick to incorporate those themes in the film?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't necessarily set out to choose those themes without knowing the story. They were just things that kind of, really in our first interviews, I think it was like 2, maybe 4-hour interviews that got us started. And so, of course, I wanted to know about the baseball side of it and the painting side of it. And it was funny, I asked Dick at one point, like, would you rather be known as a great painter or for your contributions in baseball? And without hesitation, he said a great painter. Like, baseball is his subject and he loves the game and he knows the game really well. But it's as a painter, first and foremost that he wants to be remembered. And so, we explored that a lot, but then just in conversations, his mother would come up a lot. And I kind of realized that every time he talks about her, it seems like maybe there's, as he says in the movie, some unfinished business. And so we explored that a little bit. The previous film that I had made, Clay Dream, my subject had 4 ex-wives, and then I meet Dick, and he's got this love story that I really found inspiring, and I wanted to explore that a little bit, which wasn't in our plans, and I remember when I asked Dick, I said, I think we should interview Lou. He was like, you ask her. I'm not going to ask her because she was a little bit camera shy, and she was a trooper. And so those things were, like I said, they weren't necessarily what we set out to do, but we did know that we wanted, or that I at least wanted it to go beyond baseball and get to know Dick and touch on some of these other things, which I think are baseball, in a way, like because baseball is so tied to humanity and our history and all those things. I think for me, it was natural to be able to tell like his story parallel to the story of the history of baseball, which is also the story of the history of our country, and and on and on.
It's all just captured so beautifully in there. And I had the distinct blessing of knowing Carmen and Yogi Berra. And just sitting here today and watching this, I just saw so many similarities between them and in their interactions. Just, you know, in 50 years into the marriage, you can still see the love there. And it was
Yeah.
just really very, very special. And I'm so happy that made it in there.
You know, I read the Yogi book, that huge one that came out a few years ago, while we were making this, and I couldn't help but also, as I was getting to know Dick and Lou and the family, and then reading that Yogi book, which there's so much of of the Yogi and Carmen story, of drawing that parallel as well.
It's one of, I consider one of the blessings of my life to have witnessed that. And they just, I mean, I'm not going to go on and on. I could, but I won't go on and on about how amazing they were. But they were just, you know, as big as they were in the baseball world, they were just as big outside of it, but in such a humble way. I mean, they used their celebrity and their notoriety for so much good. And they were two of the most normal people that I've ever met in my life. And I felt that same way too when, I mean, Mark, you were there when I met Dick for the first time. And that was
We see it in the movie. Yeah.
yeah, we do, yeah. So again, thank you. Peggy, I have heard from a couple of different sources that Yogi is one of Dick's favorite subjects to paint or draw. At least 8 Yogi paintings are featured in the Perez Steele Gallery sets. And Mr. Berra is a national treasure and one of my favorite people, both on and off the baseball diamond. What about Yogi made him such a popular subject in the Perez Steele releases?
First of all, I share your sentiment. Yogi was one of my favorite people. I absolutely loved him and I always enjoyed him. But when we started, we obviously did not know him. We just knew him as the player and what we saw. Dick loved his face. He loved the character in the face, and he could go on for hours about what he would see and how he would try to draw that character out. Yogi loved our cards. When he was given, we had given him a set of the art postcards. He loved his card. And there's a piece in the movie where I say he asked us for our autograph because he got all of his cards autographed. He loved the artwork. So it was very easy when we were doing a set. Yogi's name always was in the mix because we just so loved him as a person. Dick loved the painting him because he had so many levels to his personality and to that face, the character that he could bring out. And as I say, I just loved him as a person because one of the things, just in terms of what you're saying about, he was such a beautiful person. And with my internship program, Ozzie Smith does a turn 2 with Ozzie as part of Hall of Fame weekend and the proceeds of that help the internship program. And he has created a scholarship. And Yogi would volunteer to do that. And it was like 3 hours on Doubleday Field, sitting out, talking to fans and playing ball. And Yogi signed up for it more than once and just loved doing it. I mean, he just loved the fans and loved sitting out there with them. So he just was always special. And I was always happy that Dick liked painting him as well as he did.
Larry, do you want to add anything to that? Hold on. Larry Berra is here, and I'm going to give the
awesome.
mic to him.
Well, hi, Larry. How are you?
Peggy, I don't know if you remember this, but I believe when the Hall of Fame cards first came out, the Diamond Kings weren't out yet. You had done, and I mentioned Frank and Dick, and I believe you were there also in the
Yes.
Paramus Mall in 1980, and you had a little kiosk set up and you were selling these things, and I ended up talking to you for about an hour and a half, got in trouble with my boss, started hanging around, and I ended up getting every set from, I ended up talking to you several times on the phone
Yes.
and seeing Frank at some of these events. But when I heard you were coming here, I said I had to come. I took some time out. I have some medical issues and I really shouldn't, but I had to come and say hello.
I'm sorry I'm not there in person. I had hoped I was going to be able, but I
Yeah,
just
it would
couldn't
be,
organize that.
but-
But I would have loved to have seen you because I do remember you well. And I mean, you were, I mean, I know we talked many times and I know you talked with Frank quite a bit.
Yeah, and Mark, the documentary, I got to see the last half, but it's terrific.
Thanks, Larry.
It's really a great job on how you did. And and just like Donna over here, I was thinking of the same. It's like following along that, I didn't know Dick that well. And, but it seems, the way it is, I would have loved to. And, just to watch him paint, I could have probably sat and watched him paint. It's amazing how he can do them so quickly and get them so accurate. And I still think he is probably the best at getting the way the guy actually looks. You look at a lot of paintings and some guys, they get some, but he's always right on the money with the way the guy looks. And I can go back, my God, there's Phil Rizzuto and he looks just like the guy I knew when I was 5. So, so amazing.
Very cool.
If I may, I'm just going to add to that because you're absolutely right. That was one of the great talents that I think Dick had. Because as I say, I used to do a lot of research with him. He studied the people that he painted. He studied them in all different photos, and because he wanted to capture the person, not just a portrait. And I think that what you're saying is he managed to pull out what he created was really the person, not just a picture.
Well, like when you said that when he didn't like the portrait photo.
No.
When I take pictures of my family and everything, I say, I'm gonna take pictures, but I don't want anybody standing there and posing. You're not gonna know I'm taking the picture. I like when you see the freestanding, and if the guy is looking your way, fine, you can always blow it up and see what you're looking for, but I like I guess, what do you call it, yeah. The candid photos, you just shoot all over the place and you can see the way the guy actually is instead of a fake face, I gotta smile for this, and it's, so you get him when he's really laughing.
That's right. Hmm.
Do you still have your Perez Steels? Of course you do.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Already passed away, so you couldn't get them signed. But everyone that was from when they were living, when you brought up to the living guys, the cards.
You can't really hear you without the mic.
Oh, okay. She asked me if I still had my cards, my
Yeah.
Pro Steel cards, and I said yes, I do. And then the first, I don't know how many of the first sets they were of the original members, and most of them had already passed away. But every one that I got after that, I actually got signed. So I've got
That's
the whole
cool.
bunch of them signed, up to Dave Winfield. But my favorite story about Perez Steel cards is I went to Ted Williams baseball camp when I was 15 years old. And believe it or not, the man was there every day. It's before he became manager of the Washington Senators, but he was there every day and I got to know him real well. And I went to a bat dinner and we were sitting talking and he was talking about how you doing and so I said, and he goes, and he just came out, do you have anything you want me to sign for you? And I said, really? Because I don't ask if unless somebody, I said, yeah, I do. I got about 16 Perez Steel cards over here. And he signed them all.
Wow. I know Dick loved Ted Williams too, and Peggy, I know you had a chance. Dick and probably Peggy too played tennis with him.
Yes.
Tennis was a huge part of Dick's life, and it was a scene that kind of like a deleted scene that got cut, but Dick would win the tournament quite often. I think Dick and Peggy won a doubles tournament even there
Yes,
at Hall of Fame weekend, and Ted Williams would play sometimes. And, yeah, Dick loved Ted Williams as well.
Yep. He was great.
I am happy to report that as of today, thanks to a trade that took place right here in the theater, I am officially 1 card away from having my complete series 1 through 15 in hand. And the last that I'm missing, Ralph Kiner, is in the mail on the way from not far from you, from somewhere in Oregon right now. So
All right.
now I need to move on and start building that greatest moments set, and
Love it.
that'll be a bear, but it's going to be a fun chase, and I look forward to it.
That's awesome.
Fun. That's fun. You know, I have to tell you, that's one of the fun things for me, because when we produced these cards, obviously we sold them in sets, but then when they started to when we sold them individually, we used to wonder if anyone would try to put a set together, because back in the day, we had no idea how collectors would see that. And I love hearing that you've actually put a set together that way. I love it.
I wasn't in a financial position to be able to do it when they first came out, but first chance I had to start chasing them, I did it, and they're almost there, almost there.
I'll share real quick. I've got the Yogi signed here.
Oh, sweet.
And then the Ralph Kiner as well too.
Very
So
well.
I started
That's
collecting
my
these
last-
like crazy.
There we go. Yeah.
After I started getting, because I didn't know about those postcards before I got into this project. I knew about the Diamond Kings and nothing really previous to that. And then once I found out about those postcards, I mean, all the Perez Steele gallery cards I just fell in love with, and so I've been collecting those myself.
That's great. That's
Cool.
fun.
Yeah, I suppose that at some point, I do have a few signed, well, I have a few that Dick signed for me, but I also have a few others that I've picked up signed along the way. So somewhere down the road, maybe that'll be the second iteration. I have an
Signed.
unsigned set, the signed set. I don't know.
I've
If
seen
you're
some
a
people with all of
collector-
them signed. There's the person in the film that has all of the Diamond Kings signed. I know people collect those. I mean, and that is, 300 and some cards. And some of those players, a lot of stars, a lot of Hall of Famers, but also some that had one good season and they're a little bit more obscure. So it's really cool to see how people continue to collect the work.
Yeah, I think if you're a collector, there's always a chase. There is always going to be a chase for something, and that's part of the joy of this. That really is, and that this kind of leads into my next question, kind of about how baseball and art kind of work so wonderfully together. And so you each play an important role in today's artistic community. The National Baseball Hall of Fame's stupendous Art of Baseball exhibit resides in the Steele Gallery, as we saw in the film. And Marq's Films and Family Business, a boutique creative studio, the Macaw, bring new works to light. Before we take some questions from the gallery, I'd love for each of you to share a thought or two about why baseball and art pair so beautifully, and perhaps in a way no other sport can.
Mark, you want to go first this time?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, there was the nostalgia part of just like taking me back to my childhood, but I guess that's true for really any sport. So I don't know what it is about baseball and the art that makes it so good, but I kind of take from, John Thorne in the film talks about it's like it's time stopped, that frozen moment. And I just think there's so much to look at especially like if you look at Dick's landscape paintings. And so there's the faces of the players, there's the uniforms, the signage, the crowd, and the fact that it goes all the way back to the 1800s, which you can't say, at least professionally with the other sports. And so what I love is looking at like a full collection of like Dick's work is just everything that you see. It's not, it goes beyond just the game. It's the history of our country. You can see that's changing in these images. So for me, I think that's it. And then, and also for me, just, huge fan, baseball's always been my favorite sport. And so it just brings that emotion and those feelings that there's just a deeper meaning to it, I think, than the other sports I'm a fan of. But without that history, it's hard for the other sports to kind of elevate to the level of baseball.
And I'll jump in because I agree. And the very first card that Frank and I collected, well, the second card that we collected was the Allen and Ginter art card. I mean, we appreciated art. I mean, we were collectors and we appreciated art and always wanted to see that marriage. And so that's why when we met Dick and became friends, it was a natural for us. But I appreciate the varied art there is in baseball. And as you know, from the gallery at the Hall of Fame, I love because we do change that art. There are always new artists, but there are also discoveries that we've made. And baseball has been a dominant theme in the American way of life from the very beginning. And it's why the sheet music was so prevalent from the early 1900s. Baseball was dominant, and to be able to bring that through with art and someone as talented as Dick has been really super fun and exciting.
So before we turn it over to the gallery, I just want to say, coming to you from North Jersey and an area that takes great pride in the role that Larry Doby played in integrating the game, I just want to say, it's so often that you hear Jackie, 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 and I was raised Jackie and Larry, Jackie and Larry, Jackie and Larry, and I was so happy to see it represented that way, the breaking the color line represented that way in the film where you specifically say Jackie and Larry. So thank you. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to the gallery for questions. Anybody? Hold on one second. I'm going to come to you.
Thank you. First of all, thanks to both of you for sharing the story with all of us as true baseball fans. A departure from the pedestrian video or news clipping B-rolls. You cover most of the narrative with a subtle animation in the artwork of Mr. Perez. How did that come about?
Yeah, I think, well, the seed of that was from the very, very beginning, because I remember Dick being concerned about, well, my paintings don't move, like we're talking about a movie here and art's got to move. And in the film that I'd done before that Dick really liked, called Clay Dream, was about a clay animator. So all of this artist's art was moving, and so Dick was concerned about that. And I was like, well, I got some ideas. And I think my initial thought was I would have more movement, and I got lucky. I out of the blue, an animator reached out after seeing my previous film and said, "Hey, what are you working on next? I'd love to work with you." And I was just getting this project going, and so I sent him a few of the paintings, and he sent back some of these subtle animations, and he was right on that. We wanted to make them subtle, hopefully in a way to enhance Dick's work. The problem would have been, like, my initial idea to have more movement would have distracted and taken away. And Dick loved what we did. He loved those. In fact, we're talking about maybe redoing his website a little bit because he wants to have some of these moving images on his website. And so that was part of it too, like making sure he was okay with it, and trying to enhance it and have some sort of visual component. And because, we weren't going to have, one of the things that I decided pretty early on was I didn't want to have any B-roll of actual baseball being played. The only baseball that you see other than his paintings is like the Little League games, but there's no professional baseball in the whole movie. And so, I wanted to have the sound of baseball and some moving imagery. And then, the other thing, to Dick's credit, working with him, is he said very early on, and he never wavered from this, that he's like, I understand, I'm an artist. I don't want people telling me what I can and can't do with my work. And so I'm not going to tell you what you can or can't do. And I didn't want to abuse that. So I would talk to him about the things and let him know kind of what I was doing. But he never once said, I'm not comfortable with that, or no. He just trusted the process. And that was pretty awesome too, to not ever feel, handcuffed or something by the subject, which can happen sometimes.
Talent acknowledging talent. Anybody else?
Hi, this question is for Peggy and also for Marq. If this is part of your interest, I am also an avid junker and flea marketer. So apart from the Allen and Ginter card, is there something else that you hold very dear, a discovery that you've made that is one of your absolute favorite finds? Not necessarily has to be baseball or for monetary value, but something that you just are so amazed every day that you found that.
Well, I started, Frank and we did that beginning of our marriage. We would, every weekend we were at a flea market. I think the most interesting piece we found was a very early baseball radio, which actually worked, but it was the shape of a radio. And we found it at a flea market in Pennsylvania, called Shops. And it was one that Frank and we had heard you had to get there early. So we decided to go. We were up in the Lancaster area of Pennsylvania, and we decided we'd go to have breakfast at 3 o'clock because we wanted to be there early. We thought, well, we'll get there around 4. And when we got to the diner for breakfast at 3 a.m., we were told that there was an hour wait. So we decided we were going to go to the show right away, and we went around with flashlights. And this is where we found the radio. I mean, shining the flashlight on these dark tables, and the dealers were all there. Half of them were asleep, but they were there. And we found this wonderful radio, and we were thrilled when we got it home and plugged it in, and it actually worked. I mean, we were just in heaven. We had that thing for years. I just love that.
That's cool. I don't have anything
Mark?
that good. I like to collect, but I can't think of any like rare finds. You know, usually if there's something I'm like, oh, I'd like to have that. I always wanted that as a kid or something. Generally the things I'm looking for are pretty available on eBay.
Flea marketing at 3 a.m. This is a new goal of mine.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I mean, I loved an hour wait for 3 a.m. breakfast. It was just, it blew. I mean, we knew we had to get there. We were not the only ones on the lookout for things.
Yeah.
Hello, and thank you for a great film and joining us today. My question really is more for Dick, but you have impressions of him, you know him. What's his sense of being a pioneer to the next generation of baseball artists? I think of the great work that's in this building, and is he a teacher? What are your impressions of how he might feel about that?
It means a lot to him. That was something that you know, it's touched on just briefly in the actually I don't even know how much it is in the film. It was something that I thought maybe early on I would try to interview a couple of the current artists that are inspired by him, and I met a lot, and that ultimately just didn't end up making it in the film, but we had a lot of conversations about it, and it is one of the most exciting things for him to know that art is back in baseball in a big way, that he's considered, you know, a pioneer in that, and just, you know, at the top. And he hears from a lot of those artists. You know, Greg Kreindler, who makes a quick little cameo in the film, is an incredible artist that Dick really, you know, thinks so highly of, and they've gotten to know each other a little bit. They'll go have lunch every so often because they live pretty close to each other. And so between that and just the letters that he gets that you do see in the film from fans, it's what keeps him going. He was hoping to be there in person today. He had a personal issue that he had to take care of. So, but he's very excited to, you know, have the film at the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center, and yeah, that's being you know, kind of looked up on, and his legacy lasting, hugely special for him.
Oh, because he learned from other artists, and he loves that others see him as someone that they learn from. But I do want to say one thing, because you mentioned about the letters that he gets, and and I know he said this throughout the movie, and
Yeah.
when I sat with him, I said, Dick, we had thousands of letters. I had to have 3 or 4 people in the office whose job it was to answer all the letters we used to get. And he doesn't remember that, but I mean, he does it once I reminded him. He said, oh, that's right, we did get some letters. So
Yeah, because in the
here.
film, the story was, and he always told me, it's like, I never heard from anybody. And then when you hear from Peggy, she's like, that, yeah, we heard from people a lot.
A lot. I mean, we had unbelievable. What we used to do when he would come and we would do the art show, and he'd bring some of his art, and we would sit and do our oohs and ahs. I would always have a stack of some of the best letters that we had gotten and share them with him. So he did, at the time, he appreciated it, but as time goes on, that kind of faded in his memory.
Oh, coming up.
Hi, thank you. We're from Lancaster, Pennsylvania, by the way. So I've never been to that at 3 a.m. in the morning, so can't relate to that. But I am working on putting together the set of signed Perez Steels. And Peggy, you know, you are on one. And I've mailed it to Dick, and he signed it and sent it back to me. So how can I get you on that card as well?
Happy to do that. And Donna, I'll give you my address. You can share it with him, and I'd be happy to answer that. Be
Awesome.
happy to
Cool.
sign.
Thank you. Anybody else while I'm up here? Nope.
Just thank you both for joining us today. And Mark, I know that there's a lot of artwork that could have been included in this. Was there any pieces that you had to cut or that didn't make it that you were really hoping would get in here? Or were there ones that, you know, you didn't really get a chance to talk about or with Dick about and get into the film?
Yeah, I mean the one thing we hoped to do in the film, really the only thing that we just weren't able to do was we both really wanted to get that painting to Aaron Judge, and I had these ideas of filming Dick and Aaron Judge, and it just didn't happen. We tried and tried and tried and thought it was going to happen at one point. And I think Dick actually still wants to try to do that. It obviously won't be part of the movie, but he would like Aaron Judge or his foundation, to have that. He's been offered quite a bit of money for that painting, and he's always just turned it down because he just wants Aaron Judge or his foundation to have it. So that would have been cool. As far as any work, if I really wanted to get the painting in there, it was in there, but it was hard because I would have the movie, we were pretty much done and doing the finishing, and then I would look through Dick's book, The Immortals, and I'd be like, oh, that one's not in there. Oh, that one's not in there. And so there were when there's thousands of paintings, there's hundreds and hundreds that are in the film, and I loved to be able to do that. And one of the main reasons that I thought of that, having John Ortiz, the actor, do this narration was I wanted to have a component where we could show more work. And so those scenes were, history of baseball. John was kind of like the voice of baseball, but it was really for me a chance to show more work behind him and be able to cut to it. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I mean, there's like a Randy Johnson that comes to mind where he's like throwing the ball right at, you as the viewer. So that there's so many paintings that I would have loved to have in there, but I don't remember there anything being, like a tough cut to, last minute or anything like that.
Anybody else?
Donna,
Okay, coming around.
Donna,
Yes.
I just want you to know, I just texted you the address so that you can share
Oh,
it.
perfect. Thank you. I'll
Okay.
take care of that at the end. Go ahead.
I was just curious. I was just curious, there's been so many beautiful baseball postage stamps in the US over the years, also other countries as well. But was there any effort, ever any effort for Dick Perez, any of his artwork to be used as US postal stamps or for other countries?
Peggy, you know anything about that? Did you guys ever pursue that at all?
Not another country, but we did we did work with the post office to do the Jackie Robinson. There was, wait, was that the Jackie Robinson? We did do a stamp. And I can't remember, I thought it was Jackie, but it might have been, it's been a long time ago, but we worked with the post office. That was a challenging time. Working with the post office was not easy because there were a lot of restrictions and things that they would not allow. And I'm trying to remember how that was resolved, but we did work with the post office for, it was over a 2-year period. And I don't remember how that, I just can't remember because that would have been probably about 82 or 83. So that's been a long time ago.
It's a great idea though. I would love to see some of Dick's work. I've got the Hank Aaron stamps that came out last year or whenever they came out, and love those. And yeah, Dick's work would, and as we're talking about stamps, just something that kind of came to mind. A while back, I was thinking, I wonder where Dick would place in like the history of art as far as artists being reproduced, having their work be reproduced, considering he did 300 and some Diamond Kings. If you just take the Diamond Kings at the peak of what became known as the junk wax era, right? When there were, millions of these sets being printed. Dick probably has about 1 billion Diamond Kings in circulation for those 15 years, somewhere around there. And that's got to put him, I was like, that's got to put him at the very top of artists in the history of art. I did look it up. There was an artist from England that did a Queen Elizabeth stamp. And that's thought of as the most widely reproduced piece of art ever. But Dick's got to be right up there with his 1 billion plus reproductions of his work.
Easily. That was one of our biggest arguments with working with the Donruss company, because they were a commodity and they wanted to produce as many cards as people wanted. And we kept saying, no, this is a collectible. We didn't want that many Diamond Kings out there. And then that was always the push and pull.
But you were able to keep that with your own, the Perez Steele sets, right?
Yep. Oh yeah, every set we did was a limited edition. And we can attest and sign off on every single one that when we said there were 10,000, there were 10,000. There was never a 10,001 because I personally destroyed. I mean, we always had to print over till we got everything numbered, but I was always there personally to make sure everything was destroyed.
Peggy, I just want to personally thank you for blessing the Baseball Hall of Fame so they can have that addition, and it blesses everybody who's here that has gone up there and seen the benefits of that building and your addition. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Mark, I'm a big baseball geek and I love media. Will this film be available on DVD?
Yes, eventually. I wanted to actually try to get the DVD out even before it was out on like Amazon and Apple, which it is right now. You can rent or buy the film on Apple and Amazon and Google. And then bunch of delays, and then realized, okay, let's just do the DVD or Blu-ray kind of now. And so it's ready to go. We've delivered the artwork and the content, but it's still going to be a little while probably before that's available. The best place to kind of keep an eye on it would be our website, thediamondkingmovie.com. And you can sign up with your email for the newsletter and get updates on things like that.
I'll look forward to adding that to my collection. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
You beat me to the punch on the plug. That was going to be my closer, but that's okay. It's all good. Yes, the Immortals book. Absolutely. We're going to talk about that too. Do you have a question? Wait.
Hi, great afternoon to be with you guys, and fantastic job on the video. I do have a lot of the Perez Steele baseball cards, and I noticed that in the film, there was the talk about the Immortals, not only the book, but the cards being released. When were the cards released in with Topps?
Well, Topps would have been like 2006, 7, 8, I believe, was when he did the Alan Ginter and
The Ginters, yeah, 06.
06, yeah, and then in maybe 2 years of those, and then he did the the Great Moments or the Turkey Reds as well too, with Topps. And then we did this Diamond Immortals set that you see just at the very kind of climax of the film, exclusive through the movie. Actually, we did back in 2022 or 2023. We part of the way that we funded the movie, the production of the movie, was through a Kickstarter campaign, and we offered that Diamond Immortal set back then. So we printed 500, or actually I think 499, I believe, sets of those. And it's an awesome set. I mean, I love the set, and I know Dick's really proud of it as well too. So they sold out during that campaign. I think you can still find them. You know, some people are sell them on eBay and things like that. But it's really cool set.
Okay, one more question if anybody has. Yeah, sure.
Hey, going through all the finished pieces of art that Mr. Perez has put together, have you ever looked at one and said, it's so realistic, I want to be there, I want to learn more about this subject, and you have to go read up on a player from yesteryear because it's so vibrant?
Well, I mean, I get that feeling from his art. I actually have the Ebbets Field, the first night game at Ebbets Field, and I have to tell you, it's a piece that has inspired me in so many ways, because I had a light right over it, so it looked like the field was lit. I mean, you feel like you're there in person, and it just is. I really learned a lot more about that game and who played. I mean, there were a lot of Hall of Famers who played in that game, and I mean, it was just something that I've always loved, and it's my favorite piece. That and the Hannes Wagner.
I was gonna say, Peggy, I remember when we walked into your place to do the interview with you. The night game at Ebbets Field is right in your entryway, and then right around the corner there's the Honus Wagner, the original paintings, which were awesome. And I feel the same way about that night game at Ebbets Field, which was so cool to see it in person at your place. And we start the film with it, and by turning on the lights, and kind of the movie comes to life with that painting, which I love it. And being a lifelong baseball fan, there were still Hall of Famers from the late 1800s, early 1900s that I wasn't aware of. Maybe I was at one time, but they weren't names when I got into this that I remembered or knew anything about. So I certainly went back and was doing a deep dive on every one of those players, not because it mattered for the movie, but just because those paintings made me curious. What's the story of this Hall of Famer that I don't really know a whole lot about? And that was a lot of fun, getting to just know more about the game through Dick's work while we were making the movie.
So I'm just, as a way of giving people an opportunity to kind of give back for this great film and everything. I just want to remind everybody, and we'll talk more about the baseball cards that are available here after, but the diamondkingmovie.com is where you can sign up for the newsletter and or any updates and read up about kind of the history and see. You don't need to see the trailer, but if you want to share that with anybody else and let them know where to go to find out about this. And then it's Amazon, Google, and
Apple, and then
Apple.
yeah, you can rent it or buy it, and then it's also free to watch on the Tubi platform, TUBI. You can watch it for free with ads on that.
And then it's always great to support the Baseball Hall of Fame. There is a book that you saw in the film, The Immortals, that's available through the gift shop at the Hall of Fame. There's also a supplement to that. The Hall of Fame is a wonderful institution. It is a not-for-profit. So any opportunity to support them through donation is always much appreciated, and it allows us to continue to celebrate the game that we all love. So Peggy, yes, I was going to say, any additions to that?
I will just say, because you mentioned the internship program, which is it's going into our 26th year. So if you have college students, they have to have finished their sophomore year. You have college students who want a wonderful 10-week paid experience at the Baseball Hall of Fame. It is, I know you listed the people that work at the Hall of Fame that have been there, but we also have the senior vice president for the Minnesota Twins, Dustin Morris, was in my first class. It's a great opportunity. So if you know any young people in college that have an interest in sports, the experience is really wonderful. We'll be bringing 20 college students in this coming summer, and it will be, last year we had 800 applications, but everyone is looked at, and hopefully we pick the right ones.
Thank you both so much for being here. We'll touch base again soon.
Okay, well, yeah, Donna, thank you so much for putting it together.
I can't hear you. Hold on. They were clapping so loudly I couldn't hear you.
I just wanted to thank you, Donna, for putting this together, and for Eve and the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center for having a screening. And thank you all for coming, and glad you liked the movie.
Thank you. I appreciate you asking me. I really appreciate being part of this. Wonderful. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Eve's coming down, taking the mic.
I'm so glad you beat me to it, Mark. I wanted to take a moment to thank Donna for making this all happen. Thank you, everyone here. Really a hand to SABR Elysian Fields. We always love working with you. This was spectacular. It's really fun to see you both on our screen, but we would love to see you here in person. So please know, open invitation anytime. We would love to have you back. Thanks for being part of a great afternoon. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you.
Okay, I will talk to you guys soon. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. Have a great day, and may your World Series dreams come true.
They already,
I'm sorry.
they went out with the Mariners.
I was going to
Yeah,
say,
I know,
I'm sorry,
I know.
Mark.
Yeah.